Hello and welcome back to the Not the Old Firm YouTube channel. My name is Ben Banks, ready to review the weekend's action the morning after an action-packed weekend of Scottish football. Plenty of goals, plenty of talking points to discuss, and we'll hear from different managers and players as well throughout the video. It was a goal fest yesterday for a lot of teams. There was goals up and down the country, perhaps a few shock results, if you want to call them that. And we'll review it all just now. We'll start at Pittodrie, where there was 300 fans in attendance for Aberdeen's fifth win on the spin against Kilmarnock, a 1-0 win. Ross McCrory scoring the goal in that one. And I mean, apart from what I heard, I never watched the game, but I've seen some of the highlights. Aberdeen again played very well, and they're playing some of their best stuff in a wee while.
Yeah, good to see Ross get on the score sheet. I think he's going to have a really good time up there. He's kind of hit the ground running, and for what I've seen, it was very much a deserved 3 points for Derek McInnes's side.
Yeah, I think the thing is with them is they're in a point of where they just don't seem to know how to lose. Like they've came back from this COVID stuff, and it's that old saying of adversity brings the team together and things like that. And that seems to have happened with them. They've played very. I know it's not like perhaps like a convincing scoreline like some of the ones that we've seen in this weekend. We'll go on to talk about them in a bit, but from all accounts, they were deserved winners against Kilmarnock, and Kilmarnock now, as I check the league table, are now 1 win in 7. So they'll be disappointed, I suppose, off the back of that 4-0 win against Dundee United, but they probably weren't expected to go up there and get a result given Aberdeen's form and stuff like that just now. But Ross McCrory, as you say, is definitely looking like signing of the season material because he's completely transformed their team in midfield.
Yeah, he's added just that steel that Aberdeen lacked. I know Lewis Ferguson kind of likes to clatter into challenges now and again, but I don't think he's not that kind of industrious ball-winning midfielder that Ross McCrory is. And yeah, I completely agree. I think Ross probably is the signing of the season so far in the Premiership. I'd be surprised, to be honest, if he's not in the Scotland reckoning before too long, if he keeps it up. I think it's a kind of ideal result for Aberdeen with the European game coming on Thursday.
Derek McInnes touched on after the Hibs game about, I think he said it in jest, but it was about, well, if he keeps playing this well, we need to hope somebody doesn't buy him before we get on a 4-year contract. What are the chances of that? Because he is still technically a Rangers player just now.
Well, I suppose it'll depend on kind of the terms of what the actual deal is with Rangers. The assumption is that, given that they've announced that he's agreed a permanent contract for once his loan deal's up, that there is a deal in place, and it's not just going to be a case of him going, I've changed my mind and want to go elsewhere, or Rangers saying, we're getting offered more money by X, Y, and Z, so we're going to sell him to them. I remember a few years ago, there was, I want to say it was Richard Britton, but I might be completely wrong on that. But there was somebody who went for one of the Highland teams, St Johnson, or they agreed a Bosman move in January, February time. Come April, May, they're like, I've changed my mind, I don't want to go. And then they actually had to buy out the Bosman because it was a legally binding agreement. So it's not just a case of going, well, I don't fancy it now, I'm going to go elsewhere.
Well, a bit hypothetical, I suppose, in a minute, but he is playing very well. He seems like he's enjoying his football up there. Looking at Livingston and Accies, a big victory for Accies. Livingston getting ahead after the first minute, but as Hamilton usually do when their backs are up against the wall, they seem to perform very well. And they got a result. Kyle Monroe, really great time for him. I think he was on loan at Clydebank last year, and he sprung up with the winner in the end. And we heard from Brian Rice at the end of yesterday's game.
First 5 minutes, it was Livingston. I think we had one other chance in the first half. We never had many. I think the first half was very equal. But I thought the second half we were the better team. David Gimbles is a match winner. He changes games, and we've seen that today. We've got to try and keep him fit and keep him on the pitch because he's a huge asset for us. And you see it today with his goal and his assist. But he needs other people working for him as well because he's not getting any younger. And fair play to the rest of them. The work rate today and the effort is just normal for a Hamilton team.
Another big win for Accies. I mean, it's the same. I don't even get surprised when Accies get victories like this anymore. It's just run of the mill course.
sure somebody will take umbrage at this, but they're cockroaches. You just can't get rid of them. Doesn't matter what happens. Hamilton just seem to survive everything. And Livy's, I mean, I don't want to say they're in free fall just now, but they're going that way. When you look at their home result, yeah, they got a really good draw against Rangers at the Tony Macaroni, but they've also taken a pumping off Hibs. Accies have come from behind to win. It's not looking great for them just now.
Yeah, it's not to say it's all like flowers and roses and stuff and everything's dandy in the garden, but somebody pointed out on Twitter that Livingston went on a run of 1 win and 12 at a point last season. That also included a 2-1 defeat to Hamilton. Is it just slightly exasperated because it's at the start of the season, or are there genuine worries that I think they do need to improve their home form. Their home form is their big thing, and because they've not been great on the road, I think they've only picked up really a handful of victories on the road since they returned to the Premiership. So they do need to improve that home form to really keep them in the league. Is that the objective is at Livingston is every season, but there is obvious room for improvement, but I don't think it's panic button time yet.
The big bit for me just now is the fact that it is so early in the season. I know a lot of folk will still say, oh, there's another, 31 games to go or something. But at the same time, it's early enough that you can get yourself into that rhythm of lose, draw, lose, win, draw. You know, you're behind the 8 ball already, and it's probably better to have that run October, November, December time than it is to have it August, September when, before you know it, you could already be 6, 8, 10 points behind your rivals. And it's much harder to make that ground up as the season goes on than it is to kind of lose the ground but keep your head above water.
Well, Gary Holt reflected on the performance yesterday, and we heard from him at the end of the match.
Try your best, and Hakim's got a cut head and you've got a cut head. He's won the ball, take it all day long. We didn't win enough in either end, and we got what we deserved.
Going to Fir Park now, Mull versus St Johnstone, a big first win for Mull. Alan Campbell, the man of the moment again, with a brilliant strike to give them a 1-0 win over St Johnstone. Robinson said before the game that he wanted to win ugly, and it would seem as if his team took that very literally.
Yeah, we've done it against Celtic, and it was very successful for a period of time, and obviously they were a top class side. We let St Johnstone have possession of the ball in the areas that weren't going to hurt us. And I asked the boys, defend with your lives, midfielders win second balls, and the centre forwards run themselves into the ground, and you'll get your rewards. And it's the least possession we've had in any game, 40% possession, which is the lowest possession even at Celtic Park with more. But it was, we done it. That was the game plan. We wanted to hit them on the break, and if I'm being really critical, our passing when we did break could have been better in decision making. But the determination and the will to win that I asked for, and to combine that with good football, then they showed that in abundance. So ultimately, I'm delighted for the players because they've been superb since the start of the season.
Big win for Mull, wasn't it?
Aye, definitely. They really needed that one, especially against somebody like St Johnstone, who again, St Johnstone haven't started the season particularly well. And if that had went the other way, you'd really start worrying for Motherwell just now. A hell of a week for Alan Campbell, though.
Oh, I've said it. I posted. I think he'll be a Premier League player by the time he's 25. He is unbelievable at Mull. Robinson's said he's irreplaceable, and he is. It's not like David Turnbull where you can bring in Liam Polworth, who can do a similar job and proved last season that he's more than capable at this level. Alan Campbell leaves, you can't replace him. Doesn't matter how much money you get in for him. He's gone, and you're going to just have to hope that whoever comes in to replace him will do somewhat of a similar job, because he is destined to leave Mull sometime in the near future because he's got a year left on his deal. He's flew majorly under the radar pretty much because he's been a professional now, playing in the Mull first team for a few seasons.
Mm-hmm.
This season really he's took his game to a completely new level, and Mull's big objective with some of that David Turnbull money, I know a lot of it's getting put into infrastructure at the club, but for me, some of that needs to get put into just giving Alan Campbell the best possible terms that they can offer him within the wage structure, and getting him to stay, or at least get him tied down on a deal long enough to keep him for the season, and then be able to make a good profit off him next summer because he's massive for the club.
The big thing that surprised me with Alan Campbell so far, and I think I've mentioned this to you before, Stephen Gerrard said countless times recently that he's looking for something in his midfield. I'm really surprised that Campbell's not been somebody that they've had a serious look at.
No, but Alan Campbell hasn't really been linked with anybody, which is a major surprise to me. Like, I'm sure now that his performance, he's making it so hard for people not to take notice of his performances. I think he's been one of the best players in the Premiership this season. He's been unbelievable for Mull. In that team, he has been the complete heartbeat of it. And if you take him out, then Mull are a completely changed outfit. But as you say, I think it's only a matter of time now with the length of time on his deal before you start seeing the rumours. Whether it's a Rangers, whether it's another Scottish Premiership team, for me, he goes to a high-end Championship team just now. And if he plays well there for a season or two, then he's in the Premier League. Because he's more than capable of making that level, for me. There's not really many players who are willing to do the dirty work like him, and as the last week shown, I mean, that volley he scored against Lithuania under-21s, albeit, did he fully mean to just hit it on the outside of the boot like that? Who knows? But it still looked very nice. It was a decent finish. And the one against have you seen his goal against St Johnstone? He was basically diagonally about 20 yards and then just batters into the bottom corner from about 20 yards. Really, really good. But he's a big player for Mull this season. I think overall for Mull in terms of the result, it's a big one ahead of, they've got Coleraine away next Thursday. Keep your eyes out for some of our content from that. And then it's 2 big Premiership games, away to Aberdeen and then home to Rangers. So I think they've really needed this win because I know Coleraine are a part-time team. Mull should probably be beating them, but that's not going to be an easy game. They beat Maribor in the last round. So to go there and get a result off the back of a St Johnstone win, if you take out the Celtic victory, that's 3 wins in a row. It's all of a sudden looks a bit brighter. However, they are still bottom of the table, albeit in goal difference, and a couple of extra results in the next few weeks will definitely do them the world of good as they look to move towards that top 6 positions. Next game is Rangers 4, Dundee United 0. You watched this one, James. It was pretty convincing stuff from Rangers against United.
Dundee United were abysmal. Utterly abysmal. I seen Mickey Mellon come out after the game saying that they came out and they had a go at it. He must have been watching a totally different game for me. I think they had maybe 2 chances. One was clear, but came out of roof, and it was ultimately flagged offside anyway. Another one, it hit the bar. That was it. And this was at a point where they were already a goal or 2 down. I think they hit the bar at 4-0. They just... Watching that, it was very easy to see Michael Marnock fall into pieces.
Well, I think that without... I mean, you watched the game. I've not watched any of the Dundee United stuff back. I've watched the goals, obviously. I did see the big bottom point for that was the Ryan Edwards challenge on Morelos, which just...
No, that probably wasn't even the worst one. Well, it probably was. In terms of ones that Clancy let go, yeah, there was one with Peter Pollitt that blew my mind. It's just like... I don't want to go on a referee rant, but I feel that I'm probably going to have to between Clancy and Willie Collum at St Mirren yesterday. Just some of the officiating in this country is embarrassing, genuinely embarrassing. These are elite officials, and like they can't get basic decisions right. We'll speak about it a wee bit more when we get to the Hibs St Mirren game. But the Ryan Porteous handball was, to say it's laughable that Willie Collum never seen that, is being very, very generous to Willie Collum. It's a utterly shambolic decision, and if you or I made those kind of mistakes in our job, would be getting our arses kicked.
I'll have no slander about my former RE teacher. But no, I think over on Dundee United, 2 4-0 defeats in a row now. They have started well. I don't think that means Mickey Mellon's team's all of a sudden a bad team. Obviously, there's a bit of work to be doing there. I think he said after the game they're a team in transition. They're going to be absolutely fine to stay up and things like that. But what I've liked from Mickey Mellon is that he's properly affirmed that they're Dundee United. They should be pushing top 6, which I think is good to see. But it's obviously got a bit of work to do if the last 2 results are anything to go by. The other test event with fans, it was Ross County Celtic, and Ross County having had a decent start to the season, having looked solid, they were absolutely blown away by Celtic in Dingwall, 5-0. It was, I know we'd spoke about it being a free hit, but Stuart Kettlewell will still be disappointed by the manner of that.
Yeah, I can't see that he won't be anything but disappointed with that performance yesterday. I mean, as we said on Thursday or Friday, whenever it was, we done the preview, that it was a free hit. And these are the kind of games that you see Celtic come back for the international breaks and whatever else, and they kind of step it up a gear and they blow teams away. And that's exactly what happened yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I think the overall talking point from that game as well, just in terms of Ross County, was the introduction of fans for them, and Aberdeen as well. That all seemed to run fairly smoothly, which is at least hopeful for Scottish football in the coming weeks, that fans can be introduced quickly. But as we touched on in our preview, with the test date, the next testing date or the next date, fans can start to phase them in, is I think it's 5th of October. Who knows? But at least the test events went according to plan, but they weren't left with much singing to do at the end of it.
Not allowed to sing.
Well, I forgot about that. They're not allowed to sing, shout, clap, anything, just to sit, silence. But to be fair, I mean,
that suits some fan bases.
No, well, to be fair, I mean, there wasn't much celebrating to do anyway from a Ross County point of view. I know they didn't really cope very well against the Old Firm last season, really, either, but it wouldn't seem as if it's got much better on this showing. But at the end of the day, it's Celtic. They wouldn't have expected 3 points from it. It'll be the manner of the defeat that will disappoint Kettlewell. Last game we're going to talk about, St Mirren v Hibs in the torrential freezing rain in Paisley. Very, very convincing stuff from Hibs, who looked very good, although it just capped off what was an absolutely disastrous week for St Mirren. And we heard from Jack Ross at the end of the game as he reflected on his team's victory.
Yeah, I think we, expectations yesterday. Always good, but even last night, it was good that we played a bit harder, taking that close to the game, and I think we started the game well.
I do apologise for the sound quality on that interview. It was, let's just say, challenging to get stuff done at the end of that game with all the weather conditions and different things going on around the stadiums. But I think Jim Goodwin said after the game that he was just flabbergasted by the full thing, and the full build-up for St Mirren had been an utter disaster. And the game probably just summed up the week. I mean, they were 2 down within 17 minutes. They've drafted in Bobby Slamal, whose head must have been all over the place. I don't know if you've seen any of the goals, but especially the third one is suspect. But I know Hearts fans have poked fun at Slamal and things like that. But imagine if you were him 24 hours ago, you're just getting ready for doing your normal pre-season stuff at Hearts, and then 24 hours later you're playing in a Premiership match. His head must have been all over the place, even at 34. And that
Didn't get the chance to step up.
Well, they were missing Joe Shaughnessy as well yesterday, which, as you've seen, having watched it a couple of times, is massive for them. So then
He's a rock for them this season.
Sam Foley got moved into centre back, so then they were missing their captain from midfield. It wasn't an ideal situation for them at all yesterday. But fair play to Hibs, they looked very, very good yesterday. I've really enjoyed watching them the past couple of times I've been at their games, and they look like they will be a real force this season.
That game should never have happened. Should not have happened at all.
I must admit, having watched it, it was like you could just tell St Mirren mentally were just drained. It had been such a tough 72 hours for them, and Hibs, you don't want to be playing Hibs in it at all, and it was far from ideal for them. And I think Jim Goodwin was really disappointed with the lack of sympathy really his team got.
I mean, I took a little bit of umbrage at Goodwin's comments after the game. He said about letting the game go ahead and make Scottish football the laughing stock of world football.
No, it was something to do with, like, if he would have had to have played. He's basically Jamie Langfield was on the bench with like a torn meniscus and things like that, and or if he then had to put Jamie Langfield in goals or a midfielder, it would have made Scottish football look like a laughing stock. Was his comments.
Is that? But what's any different to most weekends in Scottish football? It's a lot. some of the decisions that have been made up here, and I mean, I'm not even talking about the league ending stuff and all that, but a lot of the other stuff that goes on, we make it hard for us. We make it bloody difficult for ourselves. But I really need to say that, and I'm sure this will be viewed as me talking down Scottish football, and it's not intended to be, but I'm sure some dude in Buenos Aires or Montevideo or Beijing or Sydney couldn't give a flying one about St Mirren's goalkeeping problems.
I think his general comment was, how stupid does that make us look as a league that our government joint response group can't come together and come up with a reasonable solution that mutually benefits all parties. That St Mirren were, I think it was perhaps like a real, because one thing that I didn't take into account, I'd messaged you a few people who they possibly could get in. What I didn't take into account is that the player needed tested. The player needed to have a negative COVID test within 48 hours, which vastly limits the amount of players they could get in. So I think it probably was a real possibility that a Jamie Langfield or an outfielder could have gone in. And if that did happen, then it definitely doesn't reflect well on Scottish football. Well, we'll cover that. That'll be our final talking point. At the game, I did think that's handball. Where I was sat, it's in line with the penalty box where that incident happened, and it's clear as day. I'm not saying I had the same view as the linesman either, but the linesman was in fairly similar line to me. I actually was having to look round the linesman a bit to see what was happening, but I was like, that's a penalty, and then no, it wasn't. I mean, if that's a penalty, if St Mirren score, then I mean,
What different game?
that's not to say they go on and win or get a point even. I mean, Hibs still could have went on and won, but I mean, it's those moments in games that matter, and who knows what could have happened if that goes on.
That's the best referee in this country, apparently.
Good RE teacher.
At least he's good at something. Because honestly, like that handball, mate, that words genuinely fail me. How he couldn't, and let me be fair. Actually, I'm going to be a little bit fairer on this because it's not just Willie Collum. It was the two assistants as well. All right, the one on the far side may not have seen it. The one on the near side surely had to. And if he hasn't,
Ryan
what
Porteous.
are you watching?
Ryan Porteous definitely got away with one, but I think again that just summed up St Mirren's week, didn't it? Just nothing is happening for them this week. I think for Jim Goodwin and the full club really, it's just like, right, put that to one side, we move on, and let's just pretend this week never happened, because it was just from pretty much middle of the week. I mean, imagine being on Wednesday morning, you're quite excited for the return to football, you've had a good 10 days training or something, and then all hell breaks loose. Just utter shambles really of a week for them, and none of it really their own doing. Just everything seemed to go against them, which is really unfortunate. But well, that's all we've got time for just now. Thank you very much for watching. We hope you have enjoyed. Back throughout the week with lots of content. We've got an exclusive interview coming on Tuesday with Mikael Miller, ex-Hamilton and current Rotherham forward. We'll have all the build up to Aberdeen and Mull in European football, and check out for some special edition content from that, a real first for Not the Old Firm. And we'll be back next week as well when the
Come on, Ben, you're choking to tell everybody. Come on, just spill it.
No, I'm too PR'd after that. I want to really promote it and really string this out. So you'll see next week what plans we have in place for Mull, Glentoran and Coleraine v Mull in particular. And we'll also have coverage from Aberdeen Viking as they travel to Norway, Mull travelling to Northern Ireland, Stephen Robinson's homeland, for another tricky tie. And then domestic action's back next week, and we'll have previews and reviews from that as and when the action happens. But until next time, take it easy.